Hey gang, I'm gonna play some tunes and then we'll get into the routine. You know the drill. Or maybe you don't. It's all good. That's great. How's it going out there, gang? Let me get back over to my window. Sweet. Well, it looks like we've got some folks blowing up the chat box already. Oh man, Elliot's out there. We're in for trouble tonight, aren't we? That's great. Good to see you out there, brother Elliot and Lewis, Karen. Hey, Karen and Marion. Man, we've got all the best people here with us tonight. That's great. Thanks for joining us, folks. Let me scan through these comments here. 6:15, definitely, buddy. I had to grab some dinner. I was too busy editing video for you folks, you know, so you could learn all about digital patterns and see my goofy face jump around my basement or something like that. Oh, man. What else we got out there? Marion's in from New Jersey. Elliot from Annandale, Virginia. Karen from Florida. I tell you what, Karen, it feels like Florida up here in Ohio today. It's humid as all get out. Only we don't have the beach. That's the main disadvantage. That's awesome. It looks like Elliot and Lewis are having some fun talk about trains out there. I know Lewis used to work for the railroad. That's cool. Well, gang, you all know the drill. If you've been with us here for a few episodes, this is the Mindful Music Maker live stream. My name is Hayes Griffin. Thank you so much for joining. The point of this live stream is really to keep me on track with my own mindfulness practice, and to really help you folks out if it's something you're interested in too. This is something I'll say that I've experienced the biggest leap forward in my own musical practice in the last couple years as a result of engaging with the concept of mindfulness. It's definitely not a coincidence, I don't think. It's not like, I was just started practicing my scales the right way, actively training the mind and actively seeking to sharpen the mind and your awareness of the current environment and your ability to stay in the moment can't do anything but help the act of playing music, in my opinion. So thanks for joining us here. There's a thing that the Buddhists like to do that I think is really cool. Like, it's almost like setting an intention. They talk about at the beginning of their meditation sessions and kind of like Dharma talks, teaching talks, to take refuge. And then at the end, they dedicate the merit of their practice and their time there that day. So today we're going to take refuge in this. And all I mean by taking refuge is just kind of being comfortable with ourselves that we're here, congratulating ourselves for being a part of this and wanting to sharpen our minds, become more mindful. Because guess what? There's like a dirty little secret to all of this stuff. Not only will you become a better musician by engaging with these practices with music, but I think you'll just become a better person. Like you'll get better at all of your other daily tasks, including like interacting with difficult people and doing your work better and all that kind of stuff. So let's take refuge and set an intention to kind of be mindful and sharpen our minds today. As you all know, the best way that a lot of mindfulness gurus, whether they are the religious or the secular ones, Buddhists or even the scientists like my buddy Ellen J. Langer. I love this book, The Power of Mindful Learning. One of the best ways that people talk about that always comes up in these type of texts is meditation. So let's do a quick 5-minute meditation here. I know I say this every week. I'm probably the only YouTuber that likes to sign on and then immediately sit in silence on video for 5 minutes at a time. But I think that's kind of awesome, right? Thank you for being here for that. So I'm going to get the timer pulled up here and let's do a little bit of a meditation. I'm actually going to grab my mandolin and do the meditation with the instrument on. I've been trying that out lately. And I noticed something real big earlier today in my morning meditation, my shoulder, which I think I've talked to a lot of you folks about this. I have massive problems with my right shoulder just from practicing bad habits over the years and things like that. But in my morning meditation session with the instrument on and breathing into the shoulder, I was able to get it to release for the first time in like 3 or 4 years, which is really cool. So if you've got some kind of physical problems associated with your instrument, put the instrument on, get limbered up like I'm doing, kind of test out your range of motion, and then find a good seated posture. So for those of you that are joining us for the first time, you just kind of want to be on your sits bones if you're sitting on a chair. Some of you might prefer to sit cross-legged on the floor or something like that, but that's up to you. I like to do in a chair because that's how I practice most of the time. You might even want to stand, which is also cool. But get on your sits bones, or if you're standing or sitting, just find balance, in your body. You want to be nice and erect, kind of like toward the ceiling. I like to think of the string in the top of my head that's kind of pulling my spine upward and straighter. You don't want to strain yourself, but just kind of find a nice, like I said, erect upward position. And then also maybe shake your arms out, let them hang down as your head is pointed toward the ceiling. Get that nice lumbar curve in the back. And the thing about your string in your head is that it pulls the spine into its alignment. Your shoulders automatically go back. You automatically get a lumbar curve. And that's great. So if you've got the instrument on, just kind of grab, like you normally would to play. I've got mine, and I'll stand up just so you can see I'm kind of in normal playing position here, but you can see my shoulders are relatively level. So put it in playing position, and you can grab a chord or just kind of rest your hand on it or do whatever. And then I'm going to set the timer to go here. And the thing we're going to do is find our anchor, we're going to focus our mind on, and that's typically the breath. That's what I'm going to be focusing on today. So here we go, folks. Meditation starting now. Alright, so find that nice upward position again, relax, and take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. And I like to practice with my eyes open here, because we rarely walk around with our eyes closed. If you notice anything in your field of vision that's distracting, see if you can smile at it. Gently breathe into it. After you've taken a few breaths, see if you can do a body scan. Start at the top of your head and trace your mind's eye down to your neck, the muscles in your face, shoulders. Just notice any tension, and just notice. Don't try and do anything about it, just notice where it is. Breathe into it. Mind wanders, just come back to the breath. Don't judge yourself, don't get angry, don't get sad, don't get happy. Just notice, come back to the breath. Again, if your mind wanders, check back in with the breath. See how many out breaths you can count. And there's your little signal that the meditation is over. Nothing prettier than some mandolin harmonics there to take us out of that one. Hope everyone had a good session there. I actually felt the shoulder release a little bit again. That was kind of neat. So I like to do this every week after the meditation. But if you folks are so inclined, rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. How mindful were you able to remain? 1 being, my mind was wandering the entire time and I don't even think I meditated, and 10 being that, you achieved enlightenment and you're now on another plane of existence. I'm going to give myself probably a 6 on that one. You're never going to see me give a 10 on one of these meditations because I am guiding you and that's distracting in and of itself. But I usually get a few good breaths in at least. Karen's a 5, nice. Elliot's a 7 to 8, nice. Marion's a 7, nice. We've got some folks, you guys dang near almost floated off into that next plane of existence. That's awesome. Yeah, Karen said had a distraction. That's the biggest thing that I comes to me too. I've talked about this with the meditation coach that I was working with for a while and some other folks that are kind of in this zone and space. Jacob gave himself a 2. Oh no, Jacob. That's I take no credit for that. No. That's great. Lewis, that's a great one too. 7, concentrating on my exhale and inhale the same length. That's actually a really good thing to kind of bring yourself in the moment. Adding regularity to the breath that way, like doing a long inhale and a long exhale that's like the same length like that. That's awesome. Yeah, Elliot says I used to do a weekly meditation at a meeting I led. Great feeling. Yeah, I've actually started to do this with some of the folks that I play music with. There are some that I think would give me kind of a cross look if I made that suggestion. But I think it's a really great way to just begin anything. I begin my morning practice sessions, like musical practice, with some meditation practice. I think there's nothing better to get you in the zone than focusing on the breath, because we love to make all these analogies about music, and musical instruments being an extension of our bodies, right? Or an extension of our soul, or an extension of us as beings. And, if we can focus our body and focus our mind, then thereby, the instrument is going to be focused with us if we consider it a part of ourselves like that. So I think that's a great thing to do. Jacob said he's listening on the road too. It's probably safe. Yeah, he's driving back from Dayton, Ohio right now. Don't get too distracted, man. Yeah. Well, that's great, folks. Thanks for following me on this meditation journey at the beginning of each session. I think it's a really great way to start, and it helps me kind of get in the zone and focus to talk about some stuff. Yeah. That's great. That's great. There was a thought that I was going to get to a minute ago, but it's gone, and I wasn't being mindful. There we have it. Oh, yeah. Karen said that she had a distraction. That's funny. Karen was talking about a distraction, and I got distracted talking about it. There's a lesson in there somewhere. Elliot's probably got a nice one-liner joke for that. But yeah, distractions. The thing that I like to do, and the thing that my meditation coach used to kind of talk about, which is where I was headed with this, is the distractions can actually be points of mindfulness. They can be things that wake you up and throw you back into mindfulness, as opposed to pulling you out of it. I know that sounds like kind of crossways, right? Where you're like, well, the distraction is what distracted me. That took me away from mindfulness. But if you can train your mind to kind of like think about distractions as a point to check in with your mindfulness. Am I being mindful? I heard a sound. Oh, I'm not being mindful because I heard that sound, right? And now I'm focused on it. So there are some things that I like to do with physical sensation on the mandolin and music, because this has been a skill that's hard for me to cultivate, because being in like a loud bar room and trying to play music with someone who's having a party in the back, it can be really tough. So using that person's voice as a kind of trigger to feel something on the instrument. Don't even think about, you know, what notes you're playing or anything like that. Just feel like, what does it feel like to put my middle finger on the 4th fret of the D string, you know? And just focus on that feeling, and all of a sudden you're back into it. For me now, it's a split-second thing, right? I hear the drunk lady's voice, I feel the instrument, and it's like, okay, now I'm back into Cherokee Shuffle or whatever tune I'm playing. And it'll take everyone some time to kind of cultivate that skill, but I think that's a great way to kind of practice mindfulness with distractions. You know, it doesn't always have to be related to music either, but that's kind of my musical way of doing it. Yeah, Lewis says being able to set aside distraction is part of the process. Yeah. Oh, and Elliot's got a question here. He says, does the literature show that learning a piece is most effective immediately after meditating? You know, Elliot, I think the reason that I've even entered into this mindfulness and meditation space right now is because, one, there's very little literature out there that I've found to support any of this stuff. And I'm curious about mindfulness and meditation in my own personal life and how it can affect my music. So that's one reason I'm into this. And two, there is no volume of musicians that I know that are kind of like, that have any opinions on what you're talking about. So it's like the mindfulness and meditation experts don't know, and the musicians don't know. You know, that's what I'm getting at. But here's the deal. I would be willing to bet, if I'm not much of a betting man, but I'd be willing to bet that trying to learn a piece of music immediately after meditating, it almost has to be beneficial, right? Because they talk about, neuroplasticity and the actual brain chemistry that changes as a result of meditation, and it makes you more aware of things in the present moment. And if learning a piece of music is the thing that is in the present moment, then it has to do that, right? It has to. Maybe it's, I just want it to be the case. but I would almost, I would lean that direction. You know what I mean? And here's the deal. That actually kind of segues into my topic of discussion a little bit here tonight. So Elliot, I'm going to take your point and kind of use that. I've said this before on the stream. This book, The Power of Mindful Learning, is a constant source of inspiration for me. The research that Dr. Langer has done at Harvard with her colleagues and stuff, it really opened my mind to how scientific and practical mindfulness can be. Not just this kind of ethereal, spiritual kind of thing that I think most of us or at least I thought it was before I started to engage with it from kind of more of a scientific perspective. And the thing that I was really going to dive into tonight, there's this topic that she talks about in here. One of her kind of subheadings in a chapter is turning work into play. And I think one thing that can happen with a lot of us, say that Elliot is trying to learn a piece of music, learning, at least the way that I was taught and the way that I was exposed to learning as a young child, is automatically seen as arduous. It's seen as work. Learning is not a fun thing. Learning is a serious thing, and you sit down and you focus on it and you memorize stuff, and I've probably already lost all of you, right? And what Ellen says in this book is kind of powerful. I'm going to read a couple quotes that I think can kind of help focus us in on this topic. So virtually any task, this is the quote, virtually any task can be made pleasurable if we approach it with a different attitude. If we have long held a mindset that a particular activity is arduous, changing to a mindful attitude may be difficult, but the difficulty stems from the mindset, not the activity. And there's another quote in here that I think immediately follows this up. So you're like, okay, it's a mindset thing, it's not the activity, but how do I change my mindset? Right? That's an extremely difficult thing for us to do, because our mindsets are really, if we want to quantify them scientifically, the mindset, the mind in general, is a cluster of neurons that we have over time put together ourselves through either the exposure that we've given them in our environment, or the things that we've read, or the negative thought patterns or positive thought patterns that we've got into ourselves. Everything that we do with our mind changes the mind's chemistry, right? Neurons like to associate thoughts with other thoughts so that they can like cluster them and remember them better and recall them more efficiently, right? But sometimes just because it's an efficient system of recall in the brain doesn't mean that the system that we've built is an efficient, good thing for us, right? So to change that mindset, the things that we have to do, there's one quote in here that she says, increased exposure to unfamiliar stimuli often has the effect of increasing liking. One more time. Increased exposure to unfamiliar stimuli often has the effect of increased liking. So, okay, we're talking about work and how to turn it into play. So increased exposure to something means that I will probably just learn to like it more if I'm exposed to it more, right? I think that's you know, she has, if you read this book, it's amazing because there are like 3 different studies that she shows in that chapter itself that kind of prove these hypotheses. You know what I mean? That groups of people who are exposed to things that they said they didn't like beforehand, but exposed to them in a novel way, actually showed an increase for liking. My favorite example was this kind of group of people that were asked their opinions on hip-hop music before they did the study. And, you know, being that we live in America and there are people with opinions on this, you know, I won't say who or what or anything, but, you know, there was a certain group of people that were like, I hate hip-hop music, it's BS. So what they do in the study, the control group, they just like kind of let them listen to hip-hop music and then ask their opinions afterwards. And then the other group, they say, okay, I want you to notice one novel thing about hip-hop music, whether that be an instrument that you can listen to that you didn't notice before, or a lyric that you can pull out, or, you know, a complex rhythmic pattern or something like that. And then there was another group that they were like, we want you to notice 4 novel things about this piece of music that we just had you listen to. And, you know, I'm going to ruin it right now. The people that were asked to list 4 novel things about that piece of music showed a higher increase in liking for that music after the experiment was done. And I thought that was really powerful, right? I liked it because it was obviously a music example, but it shows that even just being kind of challenging ourselves to notice more about something before we make a judgment about it can turn that thing from work into play. So how does this apply to us in our daily practices? You guys are sitting there with mandolins and guitars on. You're like, okay, we're talking about hip hop and we're talking about all this other stuff, but how does this apply to learning a piece of music on the mandolin, learning how to improvise, ear training, all that kind of stuff? So for example, Elliot brought up a minute ago, you know, does the literature show that learning a piece of music is most effective after meditating? So say you're trying to learn a piece of music and you're sitting down there and you're reading the sheet music and you're like, oh my God, taking it one note at a time, etc., right? You're like, I can't do this. It's so slow. I keep messing up. I can't remember any of the tunes or anything like that. Our friend Magnus Zetterlund, who a lot of you out there know and study with, has a great tool for this. Back chaining. Learn the piece of music from the back to the front as opposed to from the front to the back, right? So that's kind of like a novel way of looking at the piece of music, you know? So you go to the last measure, learn that forward, go to the one before it, learn those 2 measures, and then etc., as opposed to starting at measure 1 and starting that way. That's one way of like seeing this piece of music as a novel thing, and it might increase your liking for it. Another thing that I would suggest, you know, trying to make a novel observation about the piece of music, zoom out, put your mandolin down, right? Take the mandolin off or the guitar or whatever you're playing, and look at the music and see if you can find any patterns in it. And I'm not even talking about arpeggios or scales. If you know arpeggios and scales, yeah. See if, like, oh man, FAC, that's an F major arpeggio that just went by. That's awesome, right? But I'm even talking about sitting and looking at a piece of music, I should have gotten a piece of music out to show this to you better, but notice how the notes go up and down, or do they skip? Are there any patterns whatsoever that you can notice to the music? Because that might increase your liking for it, right? If you can notice some kind of pattern on the piece of paper, that pattern has to correlate with a sound. So when you go back to play that piece of music later, you're going to have a novel kind of perspective on that one measure or whatever it happens to be. And then you might end up liking the process of learning that piece of music a little better. So I know that's kind of like a random off the, by the seat of my pants kind of example, but I think that's a good way to look at turning this work, practice. We use that word, and practice kind of has a negative connotation, right? If you're at least like me, practice kind of has, it's like, all right, put your battle armor on. I've got the mandolin out. I got the metronome on. I'm going to do my, scale practice and all this kind of stuff. And then I'm going to have fun at the end and play some music. But the point that Ellen tries to make in this book is that, like, everything can be seen as play. That doesn't have to kind of strip it of its kind of intellectual value or its worth as work. Everything can be seen as play if you just kind of shift your perspective and tap back into that novelty. And the greatest tool that we have at our disposal, I think, is to just notice things about it. Isn't that crazy? Like, the way to change your perspective is not to, talk with your priest or like some guru atop a mountain or anything like that. The way to change your perspective on this is to just, instead of, suspend your disbelief. I think that's step one. So if you've already determined that you don't like something or that something is work, step one, suspend your disbelief for a second, just as an experiment. Allow yourself to maybe reach the same conclusion after you're done, like, I still hate this, but for now, I'm going to remain neutral, So suspend your disbelief, and then see if you can notice, work right now. So I'm going to stop yakking for a sec and see if there are any questions about this, or if anybody wants to come in with some counterpoints or discussion. I always love chatting with you folks, so please go to the chat box. And while that's happening, I'll play a little piece of music for you. But that's my stump speech for tonight. The way you turn work into play is to notice. I blow my own mind reading this stuff. I'm just like, oh my gosh. I've read this book. This is probably, I'm on my 6th or 7th read through. I was given this book as an assignment when I was in college at Denison University. Thank you, David Neesmith, the French horn and Alexander technique instructor there. He completely opened my mind, and I can't thank him enough for recommending that book. So I'm going to play some music. Feel free to chat it up in the box there, and I'll come back in a sec and see if there's anything good to talk about. How about some Cherokee Shuffle? I played you some jazz earlier. I probably already scared a million folks away, so here's some good old-fashioned fiddle music for you. There we go. E string was ridiculously out of tune there. And you know what? That was a distraction at first. But I used it as a point of mindfulness. I tried to put my money where my mouth was, Karen. That's what I'm talking about here. Oh, nice. Oh, we got some comments coming in, yeah. Yeah, Karen says she's looking at music on her music stand. I noticed repeated patterns in sections. Absolutely. And that's like, not only is that like a mindfulness technique, it's something that's going to get you to like the music or like the process of learning the music better. But now, when you're learning it, it's going to be easier because you're like, oh, there's a pattern, right? It's like double-edged, triple-edged sword. Lewis, the trip up to the mountains to visit the guru will probably answer your questions before seeing the higher power. Yeah, man. I tell you what, folks, like I always try to say this on every stream. I am not the ultimate authority on this stuff. I'm a guy who is sitting here with you folks trying to figure this out. I've learned a few things. If you think they're crap, you can tell me. But I've learned a few things always from people who are wiser about this than I am. I talk, like I said, regularly with a meditation coach around here. I read a lot of books on the topic, all that kind of stuff. And I think I would urge you folks to do the same. Find someone in your local area that's into this stuff, because building a community and engaging in the thought process about this on a regular basis is kind of what's going to improve your own mindfulness, you know? You can check in with me once a week, and that's great. But if you could do it every day and with people that are in your regular life, it's even better. Elliot says, I've tried the backwards learning with some success, not much, but it works. I've never tried meditation for learning, only for getting that out of the body feeling. Yeah, I was with you, Elliot. I think I kind of got high on meditation the first time, you know, I was really able to do it. Which, the first time I was really able to do it, I mean, was like 6 months after I was doing it regularly, and I kind of had that kind of inner calm feeling. But then once I started to kind of probe it a little more, you know, because it was natural that I would just kind of like, I was using meditation to kind of help my everyday life. To be quite honest, I was stressed out. I was not being a great partner to my wife. I was not being a great friend to my friends. I was not being a great business partner to my business partners, all that kind of stuff. And I was using meditation to fix myself as a person. But then when I sat down and I was like, man, I'm having music problems too. Wonder if it'll help that stuff. And then exponential curve upward in my practice, just kind of starting to trickle in and incorporate some of these things. I really hope that you can put that in your own practice, Elliot, because as a guy who has some experience with meditation, I bet it's gonna really help you out, especially since you're trying to learn all that fancy jazz crap that I like to play. That's definitely my bebop chops on the mandolin went up like crazy, man, as soon as I started practicing meditation. So check that out. And it says, of course, with Hayes, Lewis says, by the way, of course, with Hayes being our guru, there will probably be more questions to be answered. Oh, man. Yeah, dude. I sometimes I talk a lot and I think about stuff a lot, but that doesn't mean I really get anywhere. So hopefully this is good. But if it's not, you know, hopefully a good question was being asked at least, you know, that makes you think about it. And thanks, Elliot, for the kind words about the mandolin. I'll say too, not just with mindfulness practice, but engaging with the Mandolin Secrets crowd, which I know a lot of you folks are Mandolin Secrets folks out there. That's really upped my mandolin playing in the last couple years, just kind of engaging with you folks and talking about it and having kind of these nice exchanges and conversations about music theory and how to play better. Every single one of you out there on this stream right now is extremely inspiring to me, and I want you to know that. Really appreciate you folks. Well, gang, you know the drill. I've been going for 42 minutes here, so you know that means I'm 12 minutes over. So I think I'm going to leave it with that. So just to reiterate again, main bullet point for tonight, if something seems like work and you want it to seem like play, Just notice more things about it. See if you can suspend your disbelief and notice some novel things about that thing. And then, before you know it, it'll be play again, not work. And that's according to science, people. All right. Oh, thanks, Karen. Yeah, she says you inspire me. Seriously, right back at you. All right, gang. It seems like everyone's got the sign-off taglines going. It's so great to see you folks. We'll catch you same place, same time, right back here on YouTube. Maybe next week I'll be closer to 6 instead of 6:15. Hopefully I'll get some dinner before then. Take it easy, folks. You're inspiring. I appreciate all of you. Oh yeah, let's dedicate the merit of our practice here today. So we're dedicating the merit so that all other people out there can hopefully be inspired to notice more things about the things that are work in their lives so it can become play. All right, there we go. Dedication of merit. Take it easy, y'all.